Folorunsho Alakija, the wealthiest woman in Nigeria. Africa. Today, I will be sharing 7 lessons I've learned from Folorunsho Alakija. Sit back and be inspired. Lesson 1. Persistence.
It's taken well over 30 years in business to get to this point. But I give God the glory. Went to see some relatives of mine in NNPC, and they suggested that why don't you go and try for transportation of crude. So I did my homework in that area. I went back to the minister, and he said, well, by the time we start using connecting pipelines, more of that, because when we start connecting more pipelines, we won't be needing the trucks as much as before. So I felt a bit disappointed again. I went back and I was wondering what else I could do. On another visit, he then suggested to me that because that current government at that time was more interested in getting Nigerians involved in exploiting its oil industry rather than having the multinationals continue to cut away the wealth of Nigeria, that why don't I look at oil exploration and production? So I felt rather depressed, dejected, and it seemed as if the final door had been shut in my face. I decided to not give up. Folorunsho Alakija is not the type of person that gives up easily. It was funny that it took another 3 years to be able to get a new set of technical partners, because the first set of technical partners that we had did not want to have anything to do with the kind of block that we were allocated. It was deep offshore. Technology had not reached the water depth of the oil block that we had been allocated, which was about 5,000 feet. So we were going around looking for technical partners that would team up with us and that would be able to not only provide the technical know-how, but also provide the funds. Giving up was not an option. Folorunsho does not give up. My husband does not give up. My children do not give up.
Lesson number 2. Do your homework. Do things well.
I believe in doing things properly. I don't like half measures. Anything worth doing at all for Folorunsho is worth doing well. So I decided to go back to England to study fashion design properly and set up my own fashion house, which was called Supreme Stitches at the time. Immediately when I launched my label, I was invited to join, to take part in a fashion competition. And that fashion competition brought me out into the limelight because I won the competition. I decided to do some more homework. I started looking for technical partners, which I found. And we applied for an oil license. It took 3 years to get that oil license.
Lesson number 3. Take advantage of opportunities that come your way.
Me that the government of the day was not really interested in doing that anymore, but that they preferred to get companies to invest in the Nigeria oil industry. I took the message back, and they said they didn't want to invest in Nigeria. So they left. And then I thought to myself after that, well, now that I have a foot in the door, why don't I go back to the oil minister and find out what I can do in that industry? Basically, all that was in my mind was to try and get any kind of contract, just to earn a little bit more than what I was making in my fashion business.
Number 4, a relationship with God?
During the period that, I was trying to get the oil license, I became born again.
Okay.
And in becoming born again, I'd entered into a covenant with God. And I'd said, if you will bless me, I'll work for you all the days of my life.
Right.
So I knew that God would not disappoint me.
Number 5, take risks and fight for what you want.
The worst day of my life in business. This was I think it was in 1999, when the government of the day decided to back into our oil block by taking 40% of our 60% shareholding, which is 2/3 of our ownership. 2/3 of our ownership of something that we had suffered over the years. When we initially got into making inquiries in the oil industry from January 1991 to 1999, 8 years of our lifetime had passed. All our life savings had been put into it. We had taken a sole risk, meaning that if we did not strike oil and strike it in commercial quantity, we could have been wiped out. We decided to take that risk, and it was after we had discovered oil in commercial quantity that the government decided to back into our block and say, okay, now that it's looking juicy, we want a part of that. It wasn't fair. We felt cheated. We went calling and knocking on doors of friends who might be able to help us to salvage the situation. Nobody helped. It seemed as if we had suddenly become the plague. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with us, to the extent that I had friends in high places who, when they bumped into me, would look the other way or would hold a newspaper to cover their faces. It was as bad as that.
Wow. So now you were here with the government essentially taking away everything you had worked hard for. What was going through your mind? What did you want to do? How did you feel?
We felt that we had nothing to lose by fighting back, but we had everything to gain if we won. So we decided to take the government of the day to court. Short of throwing in the towel and giving up, we decided we would not do that, that we would take the matter to court. People were saying, but you can never win against the government when you go to court. Government always wins. We said, it's going to be fight to finish. We are going to go all the way, whatever it takes. We were fasting, praying, and it was like we were on our own. When we look back, we thank God for taking that bold step.
Lesson number 6, negotiation.
I believe everyone knows that women have been endowed with special abilities, and one of them is negotiation, the art of negotiation. I remember once that I entered into a business meeting, and I found that I was the only woman in the room. And before we went into that room, some people had suggested that we negotiate within a certain range. And I decided to do something different concerning that range. I decided to multiply it severally. I decided to aim at the sky, that even if I fell, I would fall on the moon. So I did, and surprisingly, it wasn't challenged. It wasn't challenged, and then I began to think, oh, I should have made it higher than that. Well, stupid. Gosh, I missed it, but gosh, everybody else who knew about the range that we were supposed to stay within said, gosh, how did she do that? We thank God. So the situation changed to a much, 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 much higher than what others were expecting us to ask for.
Lesson number 7, don't entertain gender bias.
Apply it to entry into a boardroom, and you find that you're one of a few women or just the only woman in the room. I do not see gender. I do not see a situation where people be thinking that men were created specially to be able to make better decisions than women. I don't remember reading in any parts of my biology sessions that the brains of men were colored differently from the brains of women. So I said, listen, I am going to do and say what I intend to do, what I intend to say, believing and trusting that what men can do, I can do too.
Final words, be an asset, not a liability to build wealth.
And I will let them know that I'm an asset and not a liability.